Hey, welcome back. This is day 22, I think, in the 40 Days of Holiness campaign. So thankful that you're here today. There's a really beautiful passage of Scripture in Ephesians chapter 5. So grab your notebook, workbook, and follow along there. Take some notes and seek the Lord. Let's seek the Lord together in His Word. All right, Ephesians chapter 5, let's start with verse 15. All right, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. So I'm going to just point out to you here that he's talking to Christians, all right, people in Ephesus that are part of the church, so they're saved, and he's presenting two contrasting ways they could approach life, okay? Not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, wise, because the days are evil. So he's contrasting people who go along with evil days versus make the most of their Christian life. And then he says, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. So you could be foolish as a Christian, or you could understand the will of the Lord. And then he says something really interesting. Today's metaphor for our time together is, do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Now that is a really odd comparison, isn't it? Being drunk with wine compared to being filled with the Holy Spirit. Why would he do that? Why would he compare and connect those two things? Well, here's why. And so today, I want to point out to you, he's talking about an issue of control. So being drunk has a comparison with being filled with the Holy Spirit. And the key issue at stake is an issue of control. That these are both something where a person is being controlled by something not in themselves, by something that is not their own will. It is their own will under the influence of something else, right? So if someone gets drunk, we say they are under the influence of alcohol. And so if someone is filled with the Holy Spirit, they are in a particular way under the influence of the Holy Spirit in a way that is deeper and greater than they would have been before, even than these Christians were as Christians in Ephesus. Now, I think this is very important. He goes into a series of things in Greek. You can't really see this in English necessarily, but in Greek it's like this. Big idea, be filled with the Holy Spirit. And then he introduces a series of participles in Greek that are kind of like subpoints underneath that. And he talks about the ways in which being filled with the Holy Spirit influences you. So he talks about speaking to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. So there's a speaking, this control of the Holy Spirit, being filled with Him, it influences your speaking. So it influences your speech and the way you use your speech and the way you speak to one another. If you are a person who has a tongue that is extra sharp or extra acidic or extra sarcastic, maybe you need to deal with the issue of being filled with the Holy Spirit and controlled by Him in that way. So you yield that part of your body, like we talked about yesterday, to the Holy Spirit in a newer and deeper way. So speaking to one another, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, making music, right, in your heart to God, so it affects your speech, the way you speak to the Lord and your attitude toward Him. By the way, does being drunk affect the way you speak? Oh yeah. Yeah, you ever met a mean drunk or a mad drunk or a sad drunk or a liquid courage drunk, right? Where they'll say anything to anybody because they've had a shot of tequila, right? So singing and making melody is another one. Does drunkenness influence those things? Oh, absolutely. So does being filled and controlled by the Holy Spirit. Always giving thanks for everything to the Lord. So it affects your attitudes to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Does being drunk affect your attitude? Oh yeah. I had a neighbor that was a great guy, unless he was drinking. He was nice, and he'd take my trash cans out for me before I even realized it was trash day, and he'd have them out the night before. Cool guy, really nice, friendly, unless he'd been drinking, and then we had a problem. Right? He was mean and nasty and argumentative and foul-mouthed. All these things got affected by what was controlling and influencing him. And the last one is submitting to one another in the fear of the Lord. So here's what I want to say. The metaphor that the Spirit, or that God is giving us in His Word today, is that being filled with the Spirit, this new level of holiness in our attitudes, actions, music, words, relationships, all of those things are brought to bear by a new level of control. It's almost like being intoxicated. Now, I want to tell you one more thing that is important for you to understand in this metaphor, is that being drunk is not something you do one time and then you never have to do it again. It has to be maintained, right? You got to keep getting under the influence. You got to keep drinking to stay drunk. In the same kind of way, it's almost like he says in Greek, be being filled. So not filled in the sense of a cup that sits there, but filled in the sense of a conduit, of a channel, of a water pipe through which water is continually flowing. Be always filled, be always being filled is almost the way that it comes across. You got to maintain this. You got to maintain it. So if you are a Christian, there's a call God's sending out to you to be filled, to be always filled, so filled that it controls you, so controlled that it dictates and demonstrates and flows out in new holy life patterns of speech and attitude and thought and thanksgiving and relationships. So let me encourage you. This is our metaphor for today. Are you filled, influenced? Are you under the influence of the Holy Spirit? See you tomorrow.